welcome to another episode of Dear God, Please Stop Me Spending Money on Motorcycles. Wow, that's bright. So it's been a little while since I've uploaded anything to the YouTubes, and a question which I've had on a couple of my other videos is what upgrades I've done to my CB650, which I will get to the specifics of what I've done on that bike itself, but I think one of the main upgrades that I've done is I bought myself a Triumph. I'm not getting rid of the 650, I want to be clear on that. I still absolutely adore that bike, but I bought this for my commute into London, which is about 50 miles each way, and in the current weather I wanted something with a bit of wind protection and some extra heated accessories, and this came up for sale locally to me for a very reasonable price. It's a 2015 XRT 800 with heated seats, heated grips. It's got the fog lights, the bars, panniers, tail box, and cruise control, and a few other bits and pieces like rider modes and stuff like that. And yeah, it just kind of made sense. And what I was finding with the CB on long commutes, particularly in and out of London, which is very stop-start traffic, even on a bike, you tend to get caught out by it. It was getting a bit uncomfortable, especially if I was having to wear a backpack or something like that to carry my laptop and bits and pieces for work, or on occasion a couple of laptops and bits and bobs. It would start getting quite heavy, and I've mentioned in previous videos my back is not the best, and spending an hour and a half each way with a heavy backpack on my back on the CB was, number one, making my back hurt, but also with the hard seat on the CB was absolutely destroying my arse. So this thing, on the other hand, is like riding around on a sofa. It's a very different riding position, very, very alien to me, and this bike, when I picked it up, was kind of scary because it's a big old girl. She's got some weight behind her, let's say that. But my God, is it easy to ride. I think a certain part of that is, obviously I've done a lot more riding recently. I've been enjoying my riding a lot more recently and getting out and about where I can in group rides and bits like that. What I've found is I'm more confident on the CB, and when I got this, yes, initially it was very scary because it was a good big bike, and you know, the CB is the biggest bike I'd ridden at length. I've had this thing for a little over a week now, and I've put on about 400 miles, and I can honestly say it's a lot easier to ride than the CB. It's so much, I think, because of the riding position and how you are, you know, it's got very wide bars and it's got a very 19-inch front wheel. It's just very simple to ride. That's not taken away from, you know, how good the CB is as a first bike. I think that's absolutely spot on, and I don't think this should be first big bike territory at all, because it is a bit of a beast. You know, it's a heavy old lump. And wheeling it in and out of the garage is certainly not the easiest of tasks if there's a bit of a slope on your driveway like mine, but it's not end of the world stuff. And I just found that, you know, I'm not the smallest of guys. I'm, you know, 6 foot tall, 16 stone. I don't know how much that is in American money, but, you know, I'm not light and I'm not small, and I think that this is for commuting and for general pottering around day to day and like running errands like I've been doing earlier on, this bike is absolutely phenomenal for that, because it's just hop on it, off you pop, do some errands, come back. Whereas I'm starting to use the CB more as a bit of a weekend fun toy, and taking that out with a little bit more vigour and a little bit more purpose. Something which has really benefited that is I've just had some new tyres fitted to the CB, after my last run into London on it, I unfortunately got a flat tyre on the rear, which wasn't repairable, and the tyres had done a little over 8,500 miles, so they were getting close to end of life anyway. They were pretty close to the wear indicators, so it was time to find something else, and I went with the Pilot Road 5s, and oh my goodness, I had if you have a CB650R with Metzeler Rotex on it and you want to completely transform how that bike handles, stick some Michelin Road 5s on it, because I think it's to do with the profile. Like, don't quote me on this because I'm really not particularly clever when it comes to stuff like that, but I think it's because the profile of the tyres is a little bit more of an angle. So with the Metzelers, they're almost like a little bit flat from stock, whereas the new Michelin ones are lovely and kind of almost like, I don't know, triangular shaped, and they've got multi-compound, which I think the Metzelers had, but it's very obvious on these things. And I rode those tyres into London, not having scrubbed them in, and it was a miserable, rainy, overcast day, which I was a little bit hesitant of riding brand new tyres all the way into London with a different profile on the tyres and not knowing really what I'm doing with it all, and I just found it to be perfectly fine. They weren't anything other than confidence inspiring, which I was very, very pleased about. What I will say is, for the first, you as with any new tyres, as I'm sure you're all aware, if you're watching this, then you obviously either know a little bit about bikes or have been doing some research on bikes, so you probably know more about bike tyres than I do. But you've got to run them in a little bit. I don't, some people say about, it's a couple of 100 miles, some say it's 100 miles or whatever. I think you'll know if the tyres are feeling a little bit off at first, if you're not getting the grip that you'd like, but that will be, oh bless, we're learning, it's fine. I think it's just, you'll suddenly feel that, oh yeah, they're much more grippy now, they're absolutely fine. What I will say with the Michelins that I've got on there, those Road 5s, the profile, the tread pattern of the tyre means that on the very sides of the tyres there's no tread really. It's just flat tire, like not flat tire because that would be terrible. It's just plain rubber. Whereas on the Rotex that I had, the tread kind of went all the way over, so I wouldn't feel as confident tipping the bike in as much on the Road 5s as I would on the Metzelers. But in every other way, shape or form, to me they feel like a better tyre. And take that with more than a pinch of salt, probably a good handful of salt, given that I've got like maybe 12,000 miles of riding under my belt in the space of 18 months. So yeah, don't ooh, tunnel. Don't think that that's any kind of gospel thing. The best thing I can say is read some other reviews from people who are more intelligent and know more about this sort of stuff than me. But yeah, on to my new bike, the new toy, the Triumph Tiger. It's new to me. It came with almost 13,000 miles on the clock. It's been fully serviced by Triumph up until its last service, which the owner, who actually had pictures of him doing the service, seemed pretty good. I'm still going to go through it with a fine-tooth comb. There's a couple of little bits and pieces that I found that I want to improve on, but overall this is a very different type of bike to ride to what I'm used to with the CB. Obviously seating position is very, very obviously different. The pegs are much further forward. The pegs are huge. The foot pegs are absolutely huge, and you've got the riding position where you can very easily just stand up, and if you wanted to ride around on, stood up on it for an extended amount of time, you really could. Why you would in a residential environment, I've no idea. I actually was looking at the Tiger XCR, I think it is, which is the one with the 21-inch front wheel, the spoke tyres and the more knobbly tyres. I don't need that for what I'm doing. This will do occasional bits of gravel if I grow the testicular fortitude required for that. But for the most part, this is going to be a commuter bike and a running around town bike. I am seriously considering taking the CB to a track next year and seeing what that's all about, because I quite fancy a go on that. I have no idea what kind of outcome that will be, but that will just be good fun, I reckon. And yeah, that's pretty much it really. I've got myself a new toy. I absolutely love riding this thing, and what's great is I'm fortunate enough where I can keep my CB and I get the best of both worlds. I've got my nice big adventure bike to rock around on and have fun pottering around in places that I wouldn't necessarily take my CB, and in conditions I wouldn't necessarily take my CB. And then I've got my CB for weekend blast, having fun and tinkering on. So my friends do think I have a problem, because that's my 4th motorbike purchase in 18 months. My first being my 125 Mutt, which I've sold to a friend, and I still absolutely love that little bike. It's a ridiculous shouty, farty bike that makes far more noise than it absolutely should, which is great. I've got my CB, which was my first big bike, which I still hold as that is the kind of bike you should have for your first big bike, absolutely. I've got my XS400, which is a 40-year-old bike that's currently in pieces in my garage because I'm rebuilding it, mostly because I didn't want to be rebuilding one of the bikes that I want to ride on a regular basis. That's basically, I wanted a cool little project, and that was going to be my cool little project. And now I've got this one, so technically I'm the proud owner of 2.5 motorcycles. And when I eventually finish rebuilding the XS400, I might even have 2 3/4 motorcycles if it works, because I've cut some bits off the frame. But we shall see. Meow. Yeah. So what do I like about the? I'll do like if people want to, I'll do a full review of the Tiger. I don't know if it's, you know, it's not a new bike, it's a second-hand bike. I'm the 3rd registered owner. What I don't want to do is assume that people want to listen to me talk about what it's like buying this bike. I know, you know, I'm going to be very led by the comments. So a gent has asked me to do a video on all my upgrades that I've done on the CB, which I absolutely will do. I think that's a grand idea, and you know, any other suggestions, please do, you know, put it down in the comments and bits like that, and do all the usual like and subscribe malarkey. It's just the usual bollocks, isn't it? It helps me grow the channel, and the more that I can grow the channel, as I say, I'm not trying to be a big YouTuber or anything like that. I'm finding this enjoyable, and it's a really nice way to, like, I've had a really shit day at work. Like, I've had a really shit day at work. I have not enjoyed work today. So I've got on my bike, I've gone out for a ride, and I'm talking to a load of shit to a load of strangers, and that's awesome. That's you know, it's already, you know, I've been out for all of about 10 minutes, and it's already making me feel much better and much happier about the world, because I'm on my bike and I'm talking about bikes, hopefully to people who like bikes as well, or they're just waiting to see some fat arsehole fall off a bike in traffic because he can't ride an adventure bike. Whatever works, as long as you're watching, I don't really care. That triple is lovely. It's what's quite funny is this has got virtually the same brake horsepower as the CB. Obviously it's a bigger, heavier bike, but in the triple it delivers its power very differently. And I like it. I like the triple, and I like the little whistle. It comes as stock with an arrow exhaust and all sorts of nice bits like that. I can go through all the different bits and pieces that I've done on this one if people are, that I've got on it as standard kind of accessories, but it's got panniers, and my god, it's windy. It's got panniers and various bits and pieces like that on it. But only if people are interested. I'm not, you know, I want to talk about stuff that people want to listen to, if I can. Otherwise I'll just carry on talking random shit that I want to talk about. Either way works for me. Yeah, I want to go home now because this traffic's shit.